Well, good afternoon. This is Plant Smart Living with Farmer Fred. Really glad you could join me today out here in the vegetable garden. It's a beautiful day here. We're like in the second week of June. You know, we've had a lot of nice sunshine here in Pennsylvania, and so those plants are really flourishing and thriving out in the garden. It's just nice because there for a while the tomatoes and peppers were kind of growing really slow because of the lack of sunlight, but now that we've had some warmer weather here, the garden is really starting to take off. Well, today I'm excited to share with you my late spring broccoli harvest and some garden tips. So thanks for joining me today out here in the vegetable garden. Well, broccoli certainly is one of those vegetables that are packed full of phytonutrients and antioxidants. It has vitamin A, vitamin B1, vitamin B2, vitamin B3, vitamin C, vitamin K. Has plenty of fiber, plenty of protein. And yes, plants do contain protein. In fact, all your animal flesh, like your cows and so on, they don't even have protein. They don't contain protein. The only reason they contain protein is because they eat the grass. Well, broccoli is so full of fiber too. It's another problem that those who follow the standard American diet have experienced a lot of constipation, because meat and dairy in and of itself doesn't contain any type of fiber. So that's why there's so many people that are constipated that follow the standard American diet. But if you include plenty of vegetables in your diet, they're full of fiber, you're not going to experience the constipation that most people have and experience. Since my wife and I have adopted a plant-based lifestyle, constipation certainly is something that's a thing of the past, because vegetables have plenty of fiber. Also, broccoli is one of those crops that you can plant in the spring and in the fall. And so the gypsy broccoli that I planted, it matures in 58 days. I also grow my broccoli under my low tunnel hoop houses that's covered with a polyester row cover. Now, broccoli, when you plant it in the spring, there's only a short window of time before that hot summer heat comes and it begins to bolt. So covering it with that polyester row cover cuts down on about 15% of the light, and so it's less tendency for that to bolt. Also, when you go to harvest broccoli, you want to make sure that those broccoli heads are nice and tight and firm. If you see any type of yellow or any type of yellow flowers, you most certainly want to begin to harvest those broccoli heads immediately. And so you really just want to make sure those broccoli heads are nice and firm and those buds are nice and tight. That's the ideal time to harvest the broccoli. Also, when you're planting your broccoli, you can space them about 18 inches apart and make sure your rows are about 2 feet apart. You want to make sure your soil is a good, well-drained, rich and fertile soil. I plant my broccoli in my composted leaf mulch that's amended with topsoil, and then I also add alfalfa pellets several times during the season. It's a nice slow release fertilizer. And so my broccoli plants are located right around the corner there underneath my row cover. So why don't we go take a look at those tasty and delicious broccoli plants. You also want to make sure that you plant your broccoli where it receives a good 8 hours of sunlight. The more the better. I always say, you know, your leafy greens, can get away with 4 to 6 hours of sunlight, but anything with a root or fruit, you want a good 6 to 8 hours of sunlight. That way your plants are going to grow to their fullest extent, nice and healthy and big. I also have videos showing how you can install a low tunnel hoop house in your garden, and I always encourage gardeners to be proactive in your garden season. Spend a little bit of money, a little bit of time up front, and install these low tunnel hoop houses. They're very cost effective. You know, here in my gardens I have the cabbage butterfly, you know, the cabbage worm. You know, they lay their eggs underneath the leaves and then they turn into these little looper worms that they're just very destructive on your plant. We also have the aphids that we deal with. Also the deer, and so these row covers keep deer off my plants. And again, those certain garden pests. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this row cover off, and let's take a close look at this beautiful broccoli. You also want to remember too that you can also eat the leaves on these broccoli plants. They're very similar to collard greens, and so you can be picking the leaves from these all during the growing time of these broccolis, and they do really well. Also, when you go to harvest these heads, which I'm going to be doing in a minute here, you want to leave about 6 inches of the stalk there. Also, when you cut the main head off, the main stalk, there's also going to be side shoots developing on your broccoli plant. In fact, this one right here is a side shoot from the one broccoli head that I took off a couple weeks ago, and so it's a nice size side shoot. So why don't I grab my wife's Longaberger basket here, and we'll start harvesting some of these beautiful broccoli heads. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 3 of these broccoli plants and cut the heads off them. I have here a Sierra saw. It has a nice serrated teeth on the end of this blade, and so it's really handy to cut these broccoli stalks, because these broccoli stalks are probably almost 1.5 inches in diameter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut 2 of the ones down here on this end. And then I have one more right here I'm going to cut. I ended up planting 18 of those broccoli plants underneath that low tunnel hoop house. And this is the third one that I had just harvested today. I'm only harvesting 3 because they only are going to store so long in the refrigerator. My wife and I will probably have 1 head a day like this. But if you have good, healthy soil and it's nice and loose, this is the type of plants you should be expecting to get from your garden. You know, the diameter of this trunk is probably about 1.25 inches in diameter. And I did get my measuring tape and I measured across these heads. They were anywhere from 6 to 7 inches across in diameter, and so it's a good, healthy broccoli plant. This is what you want to work towards. Well, I hope this video was able to give you some tips and ideas on how to grow broccoli in your garden, and also how to harvest broccoli. There's just nothing better than having fresh, whole, organic food from our backyard grocery store. You know, most of the food at supermarkets today have to travel like 1,500 miles, and just think of the pesticides that might be on that food, and also the nutrient loss over that period of time. And so basically, you know, we're just cutting them here in our own backyard grocery store, taking them in and cooking them right away, and they're just so packed full of nutrition. You know, we were talking about fiber earlier, and that's one thing I've learned as I studied nutrition for the last 5 or 6 years, is that 97% of Americans suffer from lack of this one nutrient, and that's fiber. And again, that's why there's so much constipation in this country, because people are following the standard American diet. But you know, since my wife and I have adopted a plant-based lifestyle, like I said earlier, constipation is a thing of the past. So is joint pain and high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and my energy level has also skyrocketed. And so the benefits of following this type of lifestyle are just amazing. So anyhow, if you have any questions or comments about this video, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. And you can also visit us at PlantSmartLiving.com. And there you can learn more about gardening, and also how you can reclaim and restore your health by adopting a whole food, plant-based, vegan lifestyle. Well, anyhow, I hope you have a wonderful day and a bountiful garden season. So until next time, this is Plant Smart Living with Farmer Fred.